When you come into fearlessness, there's expansion. Your womb is going to expand, your cervix is going to expand, your heart is going to expand. That baby's coming out, So I realized it has to be a celebration.
Hi and welcome to 9+9, the Honest Pregnancy and Birthing Podcast. We will be talking about the beauty of conceiving and growing the baby, which doesn't mean we'll be talking about sex. There are other podcasts for that. But we will talk about the magic of having a baby in your womb and bringing that baby out, birthing it, and spiritually connecting to a part of yourself you didn't even know you had. And for that, I'm very happy to welcome Rakhi here, who has a connection with her babies that I think a lot of mothers would be envious of. And I hope the mothers-to-be that are listening to this podcast feel like, oh my God, I want to have this. What can I do? Because her children literally told her to have a home birth before she even knew that home births existed. So here we are.
I'd love to share my story.
Let's jump right in. Home birth, like how did you find out about it and why home birth?
In the first few months of my pregnancy, I was ignorant really. I had no idea, what delivery would be like, what birthing is like, what it should be like or shouldn't be like, how I would like it to be, none of it. I went in like a blank slate. I was pregnant, I was happy, healthy, working, and that was it. And it was literally like this baby showed me that, hey, Mom, there's a particular way I want to come into this world, so you better get your act together. I think I was about maybe 2.5, 3 months pregnant with my son, my firstborn. And I had a vision of how he was to be born. So there was an office space that I used within my home to do the work I do. The space I use is a very sacred space. It's really charged with a whole lot of love and a whole lot of positive vibrations.
Usually we don't talk much about the profession of the mother or woman I'm interviewing, but I think here there's like a very close relationship. So what exactly do you do?
So I like to call myself a self-mastery coach now. The idea is that you have all the answers within yourself. Why are you getting stuck in your life? You're either on the wrong path or you're just not looking in the right place. And if you look within, the answers are all within you. So while I was still pregnant with Rehan, I had this vision of being in that space, in this sort of sacred space that I've created to do all the work that I do. And it was beautifully decorated. It was very sort of it was very, what's the word? It was really visual. I mean, I could see, every detail of it. And it was beautifully decorated with flowers. There were crystals. There were, candles. It felt like a really sacred, like a holy space. And I saw myself birthing him in a water body, like in a pool. Honestly, I didn't even know about water births at the time. And I just knew it. I said, this is how he has to come into the world. And I said, how do I do this? And I just went on Google and I just started looking it up. It so happens that I think up until 2006 or 7, there were doulas there were midwives in India and in Bombay. And all these midwives had been sent away in about 2006 or 7. So when I looked them up, they were all shut down. So the website still exists, but it says, we don't practice anymore. So I kept sort of stumbling upon, a closed door. And I said, no, there must be a way, there must be something. My entire pregnancy actually went in trying to figure that out. So it was literally like a journey of
9 months.
9 months of figuring out how this baby is going to come into this world the way he wants to. And somewhere, it became my desire to birth him like that.
Then you did, but it wasn't all. I think there was some hiccups in the middle, or did it just like you found your midwife eventually and then?
Yeah, so hiccups is interesting because I've begun to realize now with the work that I've been doing for over a decade that those hiccups are the blessing.
Okay, great. I mean, yeah, it's a way of looking at it.
You know, it's almost like when you're driving along and say you're driving at the speed of 70 miles an hour, okay, and or 70 kilometers an hour, and you see it says speed breaker ahead, right? And you start slowing down, and you have to really sort of slow down as you come to the speed breaker. Had you not done that, you know, it'd be complete chaos. And when you do that, when you sort of bring yourself to that halt, you're able to sort of pause and look before you start running again. And it's like when I had these hiccups, it really allowed me to introspect and ask myself some pertinent questions like, you know, what's the reason that I would prefer to have a natural birthing over just go with the flow?
Yeah. What was your reasoning?
So I began to realize, and this was, you know, evolving for me because, like I said, it's not something I came in with, you know, knowing this is how I want it to be. What I realized is that it's the most natural thing. You know, you have to pop that baby out. There's no other way. The only way is out. Exactly. So I began to realize there was so much fear, you know, like this fear psychology that had been built around both pregnancy as well as delivery. And the fear of, you know, the pain, the fear of, you know, a tear, the fear of pushing the baby out, the fear of not being able to do it without a doctor, you know, the fear of, we've seen so many movies, and I feel like movies over dramatize everything so much. You know, there's like these bright white lights, you're on, you know, this stretcher and you're being pulled into the OT, and then, you know, there's nurses yelling around you, and I'd think of that and I realized my whole body kind of contracted just with the thought of it. And that's not the energy you can have at the time of birthing. It's like I tell my mamas that train with me now, you have to come into a space of expansion. Your body's opening up to deliver that baby. You cannot contract. So, you know, if you take a moment and imagine, think about something that makes you fearful, you will experience constriction. Your throat might get constricted, your voice might get constricted, your breath might get constricted, you feel a knot in your tummy. It's all constricting. So you have to come out of fear into fearlessness. When you come into fearlessness, there's expansion. Your womb is going to expand, your cervix is going to expand, your heart is going to expand. That baby's coming out, you know. So I realized it has to be a celebration.
Okay, you make this sound very easy.
If you want it to be.
Okay.
It's really if you want it to be. I think it can be the hardest thing in life if you want it to be, and it can be the most powerful, amazing, orgasmic experience if you want it to be. It's like different women will have a different experience of sex, right? Sorry, I know we weren't talking about sex.
No, we can talk about sex.
But
I think it's
I think when you said we're not talking about sex, everyone started thinking about sex.
Good, this is how I hook them.
Pink elephant. So I think, yeah, like I was saying, I think everyone has a different experience of sex. You know, someone might say it's painful. Someone might say I don't enjoy it. Someone might say it's the one thing I look forward to in, you know, all of my experience of intimacy. And again, you know, if you go into penetrative sex thinking it's going to be painful, you're contracting. It is going to be painful. Your body's not going to open up. But your body opens up when you feel that expansion in your heart. Like there's love, there's desire, there's passion that opens up the whole body. It's not meant to be painful. But you can experience pleasure as pain if the mind takes you there and you allow your mind to take you there. And I believe personally, after 2 most amazing deliveries and pregnancies, birthing is so pleasurable.
Yeah,
I'd love to do it all over again.
That's what the lady who wrote this hypnobirthing book also says. I mean, I was really trying to have like painless births. Did not happen. Like you have to go in with a certain naivety to really, you know, embrace that. But then there's still the world happening around you, which sows in like seeds of fear. Maybe if you would never know and you would have not seen any of these movies and you would just be there by yourself, it would be that experience.
I think by the time I was about 7 or 8 months pregnant, I was deeply attached to this vision of wanting to deliver my baby in this way that I was almost obsessed. I was possessed by it. I said, this is the only way it's happening. There's no other way, right? And I was consumed by it. And I had just come back from our baby moon. We had gone to London.
Oh, that's nice.
And we did a 2-day trip where we went to this.
A 2-day trip was your baby
No,
moon?
no, a 2-day trip outside London. No, I think it was about 3 weeks maybe. And we did a 2-day trip outside London where there was this huge community pool with, I'm sure, like at least 100 people. Again, the ignorance of being a first-time mom. On the one hand, there's a lot of fears when you're a first-time mom sometimes, and on the other hand, there's just ignorance of not knowing, right? So I went in, enjoyed myself. When I came back to India, I discovered completely out of the blue that I had something known as molluscum contagiosa. So very interesting name.
Sounds contagious.
Not exactly, not interesting to have. So it was a contagious vaginal infection.
Okay.
And my gynecologist, who is a very senior gynac, extremely gentle-hearted, who knew how deeply I was, working towards having a home birth, very gently sort of said to me, "This is what you have." And as a mom, or as a pregnant mom, you're emotionally and hormonally on edge all the time, right? So you're literally like, your tears are waiting.
They're just waiting.
Yeah. So the moment he said, "You have, something," I was there, like ready, crying. So he said, "No, hold on." I said, "Okay, so what does it mean?" He said, "It's contagious. So if you deliver your baby vaginally, the chances are that your baby will have it as well. And there are warts. So he'll have warts all over his body." So yeah, that was really scary. And I said, "Okay, so what's the way out?" Because he was suggesting a cesarean when I wasn't even looking at a hospital birth, let alone a C-section. He suggested that I go to my dermatologist and I figure out, they have a way of maybe eradicating it. We make sure that there's not a single trace of it, and then we can talk about it again. So as I sort of went about figuring out whether I could be free of this crazy virus, is when I realized how deeply attached I was to delivering this baby vaginally at home, and so on and so forth. So this is still while I was in search for a midwife or someone to assist me during my home birth. And it was very clear that I wanted a home birth. So it wasn't just a non-hospital birth, but a birth at home. We said, we'll try and find a middle ground, because there were no midwives, honestly. So we found a doctor who offers natural birthing, but at her center. So this is not a hospital, but this is a birthing center. From the time that I went to visit her, though, my first visit, I knew she wasn't the one. I just didn't resonate with her.
Okay.
So my first checkup, in fact, I think I went for about 2 or 3 checkups, and every time I'd go for a checkup, this was very interesting. She could never find my son's heartbeat. I mean, she's a doctor. She had the Doppler, not just the stethoscope. She could never find his heartbeat. So much so.
Scary?
No, it wasn't scary. To me, it was my son hiding, and that was a sign. And I said, I literally told him, I said, "Buddy, I don't have another option, so if you don't like her, I can't help it." That's literally what I said to him, because I knew it. I said, "Okay, you're hiding, you don't like her, I get it. I don't like her either." I literally had that conversation with him like I would, with anyone else. So I said, "You know what, buddy, if you want to have that so-called home birth, you better find someone." So we had about three checkups, and he would never show up, so much so that the doctor herself said, she said, "I think he doesn't want me to check. Are you okay with that?" I said, "That's absolutely fine." And I was relieved, because she'd go about like everywhere and she just couldn't find him. Then came the vaginal infection. And I called her to say, this is what's happened. Because obviously she's my caregiver. She needs to know, and I need to know what she thinks. And she said to me, and that was, I think, the last straw. She said to me, "You're making a big deal out of nothing. I've seen women deliver under higher, much, much riskier situations, and you're just making a big deal out of nothing. It's absolutely fine to vaginally birth your child." And I hung up the phone and I said, I am not going back to her. That is where the switch took place. And I said, you know what? I will deliver this baby however I have to, as long as it's a safe and healthy birth.
Yeah.
My baby has to be safe. Doesn't matter. And I literally told my baby, I said, if you want to come via C-section, you want to come in a hospital, you want to come at home, you want to come in someone's birthing center, I am open, as long as you're healthy and safe. And that's where the switch took place for me. And I said, now, nothing matters to me. And I stopped searching. A week later, one of the midwives that I had been in touch with, I had gotten in touch with them early in my pregnancy saying, I'm looking for someone, I want a home birth. And they had all sort of said, we'll see if we can help you. And they all disappeared. And this is months later. And one of them messages me saying, we found someone, but would you be okay to fly her down from Europe?
Wow. Okay, that's commitment.
Yeah. And I said, now that all the doors have shut, it's like how they say when one door shuts, the other one opens. It's literally that one of those moments. And I said, I've never considered this. Okay, why not? Let's give it a shot. And I said, sure, let's explore it. I don't know what that looks like. And one thing led to another, and I found a midwife from Austria, a 72-year-old lady.
Who was ready to fly to India? That's also quite remarkable.
And it was one thing she said on the phone, thick Austrian accent, white hair. Like she literally looks like, one of those out of those what are those movies? The Hobbit kind of movies. She gave me like those vibes. White hair, fair skin, large nose, very sort of Wiccan vibe.
Yeah, like how you imagine a midwife to be.
Yeah.
Actually, like that old wise woman.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And she came on the phone and she said to me, birthing is very sacred. And I had goosebumps and I said, this woman's talking my language. She said, birthing is very sacred. I'd be honored to come from the other end of the world to just deliver your baby. And I said, oh my God, like, this is it. It's like when they say, when you find the one you know.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments where it was my midwife. Every other woman's having a baby around the world. Every second there's a baby being born. So maybe we take it for granted. We think, oh, what a big deal, who cares? Every woman's doing it. And today's working woman is taken for granted, you know? So what if you're pregnant? You still work 14 hours a day, That's the attitude. But where's the honor in that? The honor that there's a soul residing inside you, whom you're nurturing, growing inside you. It is a miracle. That there's a miracle happening every second doesn't take away from the fact
that it's a miracle.
It's a miracle. I mean, when you sow seeds into that pot of mud and you sprinkle water on it every day and it sprouts, guys, that's a miracle.
Yeah.
You sow 10 seeds, maybe 4 of them sprout. Isn't that crazy? That 4 were perfect and 6 were not? So how is this not a miracle? And when that miracle happens, the idea is for you to really, hold it in with that amazing sense of sanctity and that amazing sense of wonder. Yeah.
So when do you think is like the latest that somebody should turn around their journey? And you can turn it around, obviously.
Oh, of course.
Like you did when you had your infection, you still
absolutely.
managed to sort of turn it around. And then you did
Absolutely.
have a home birth.
So, on the one hand, I would say you could turn it around whenever you want because, again, the mind is so powerful. It's like when you make up your mind that you want to turn something around, then time doesn't stand in the way. You can do it. I'm digressing for a second, but after the infection was gone, my baby had engaged and my cervix had dilated 1 centimeter at 32 weeks.
Oh.
So for me to have a normal birth, let alone a natural or a home birth, I had to be full term, and medically you're full term at 36 weeks.
Yeah, at this point you would have to send the baby to Nico, even if you vaginally give birth.
Yeah.
You still. So then the baby.
No,
was
so
in
I
Nico?
was told no. So I was told I might have to have a cesarean if I went into labor.
But the baby
Again.
was already halfway there. How would you go into cesarean? Wouldn't you then give birth naturally and then put it in?
Honestly, I didn't even contemplate that by then. I was like, yeah, right. That's not happening. So by then I was back to, I had reached a space where I was detached, but at the same time, I had conviction of how I was going to deliver this baby. So when the doctor told me at that point that you won't be able to, if the baby doesn't stay until 36 weeks, then we'll have to, intervene. I just knew that I'd stay full term. So, the question that you asked me is, when is it too late? And I'm answering that slightly, in a slightly different way. I turned my pregnancy around again for the second time when I was 32 weeks pregnant. And this is truly where my program, Womb to World, really kind of started taking off, or was being developed without my realizing it. I took the next 8 weeks to train my baby, and that's exactly what I do with mums. My baby stayed in.
But how did you keep it in?
So physically,
halfway there. Like I can't even imagine walking.
I could feel him.
Yeah.
So I could feel his head in my groin. So when I sat, there's a photograph of me where I couldn't sit up. I mean, you can't sit up 90 degrees anyway, because you have a big belly, so you're sitting kind of back. But I couldn't even sit at this angle, so I sat like really awkward like this, because I could feel him in his head in my groin. So I literally felt like I'd crush his brain or something.
Yeah.
And when I walked, I could feel him, in my groin. Yeah, so I walked like that because I felt him there.
Yeah.
So it was really funny, and it was really
I mean,
interesting.
in hindsight, everything is funny.
Yeah, because I was like, you're here, I understand, you're really desperate to get here, you've planned your grand entry, but I said, buddy, you have a little more weight to put on, your lungs need to develop, your heart needs developing, so you gotta stay in there. Yeah, it was phenomenal to see how I was able to communicate with my baby.
But then you mostly laid down.
So I was on bed rest, yes, and I was told to have my legs upright at 90 degrees. And I was only allowed to go to the washroom and back. And this is after being very active during my pregnancy, walking around. I think I overdid it in London. I did yoga. I was working. In fact, even after all of this, I worked till the day before I delivered him. And he stayed in till he was 39 weeks and 5 days or 6 days.
Wow.
Yep. And when I knew I had, crossed my 39-week barrier, I took my last client the day before I delivered him. And she had come from Bangalore. I was giving her a womb blessing. She was on her journey to pregnancy at the time.
Wow.
It's about how open you are and how ready you are.
And also what are you willing to sacrifice? I mean, you could have also gone the easy way out for the mother, taken a C-section, be like, okay, let my baby be in the NICU. Because after 32 weeks, you have entered the third trimester, you're becoming heavy, and you're really done with it.
True.
You could have also chosen that, but you were ready to lie. I mean, I think it's pretty hard to lie in bed and not lose your mind also.
I think maybe what made it, and I don't want to oversimplify it here, it was hard for me to stay in bed. It was uncomfortable. I mean, let me make it really, realistic as well. After I delivered him, I realized my pubic bone had separated because of having his head jammed in my birth canal for like 10 weeks. So I'm not saying it wasn't painful. I'm not saying it was easy. So I don't want, people to think like it's magic. It's not. What I'm trying to say here is it's your definition of ease. It's your definition of pain that will make or break, how you want all of this to be. So, when you said to me, you could have gone the easier way, it's about what is easy for me. C-section is not easy in my worldview. I don't want to be cut up. I don't want to deal with stitches, the possibility of some infection or the other, the pain of having to recover from stitches. I don't want to unnaturally have myself or someone else decide when my baby is going to come into this world. That baby and my body know, and there's a divine wisdom that knows when this baby is supposed to come into this world, and I would rather submit to that. My easy is that when I chose to get pregnant, it was a conscious choice I made to have this baby, right? So then I have to go with it. So where's the question of, what's easy? I mean, did you not sign up for it? Like, that's what I ask myself. And if you didn't, then you have a choice.
Yeah.
Do you still want this baby or not? And if you chose to keep the baby, then again, that's your choice. So you got to do what's best for the baby, right? So, I mean, you've made an unwritten contract with this baby to see them through at least your entire life, to make sure you're going to do the best that you can for them. So for me, the best is I don't interfere. Because I don't know. It's like I don't believe I know more than nature, God, wisdom, body knows. I don't know. And I don't believe medical science has advanced that much either. There's so many cases of, children, not experiencing, but children displaying trauma after being born, through some kind of intervention. So the baby knows they were not ready. So I don't think it's up to me to choose some sort of easy way out.
I mean, motherhood basically begins when you're pregnant, because you're taking these choices.
Of course.
You're putting somebody else in before you.
Yes. I read the other day something very interesting where, a new mother said, she said pregnancy is the easier part. It's the postpartum that is the harder part of the journey, the more painful part. And I think that's so true, because if you think you're going to cut your pain and cut your losses, or whatever you want to call them, difficulty with your choice of delivery, it's only the beginning of the journey. Honestly, it's the easiest one. It's everything else that starts after that, that's complete chaos, right? So
and it's undeniable because it's in 3D right in front of you.
Oh,
so then you can't even ignore it.
Oh, no,
inside
absolutely.
your womb, you can try to ignore, but then
of course. Yeah.
for everyone there to hear and witness.
Absolutely.
But how was your birth? I want to hear that. Like, did you find a tub? Did you have a lake in your, or a tub, pond in your sacred space?
Oh, so my dream, actually, my personal dream, was to have a dolphin-assisted birth.
Okay, getting a dolphin in your office.
No,
probably.
that's impossible. Sorry, I wish I had like this sprawling space where I could have had 3 dolphins. So that was my dream, but mine was as close as possible to that. So when I found the midwife, I also found a doula in Bombay. There are doulas in Bombay, so they assist with birthing, and I think they really make your journey so much more easeful. So
yeah, but
I'm
the
really
doulas
grateful.
are not medical, so you still need a medical staff on if there is any emergency. You would still need somebody who is
Yes, so you need a midwife or, of course, a gynecologist. I don't know how many gynacs are sort of home birth friendly today, because let's just say they have a very full roster.
And also for them, it's a lot of risk. Like, if something goes wrong, they have nobody to fall back on.
I suppose. I got lucky though. Yeah. Again, I mean, I think, my kids, they're super, super self-willed, and they know what they want, and that's how they came into this world. So I had a midwife, and then I also had a gynecologist. So this was not my senior gynecologist who saw me through my pregnancy. This is someone else that I found. Again, just stumbled upon her. She's the one who actually figured out that Rehan had engaged and that my cervix had dilated. So this was my first checkup with her. And she said, do you mind if I do an internal? And I said, sure. I hadn't had internal examinations done by my gynac so far. He was very senior, and he didn't believe in them, and he didn't believe in even that level of invasion. So I had never had one. So I said, sure, I don't mind. And then she literally sticks her fingers in, and they go in by like an inch, and she says, oh. And I said, yes. And she says, I feel your baby. And I was like, okay, sure. Is that, not normal? Like,
Yeah, you shouldn't
I have
feel
no
the baby,
idea,
it's
right?
big enough.
Yeah, like, I have no idea. She says, no, I mean, I feel your baby in the vagina. So I was like, okay, like, I don't understand. Is that not what you're supposed to feel? Your baby is engaged. I feel he's crowning. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm 8 weeks away from delivery. She said, no, Rakhi, you need to go back home right now, drive really slowly, otherwise you might deliver your baby. And I was stumped. I was absolutely stumped. So that's when she said to me, she said, look, I'm going to come and see you every week. I doubt that you're going to have your baby stay in for longer than 5 days. But I'm going to come and see you every week, and I don't want you getting out of your home. And then she gave me everything for my home birth. She said, if you get through 36 weeks, then we'll talk about home birth, but you keep everything ready. She'd come, she'd sit and chat with me. She'd get me to be really at ease and comfortable. We'd have a good laugh. Then she'd check me and she'd say, you're doing great. I have no idea how you're doing it. Keep doing what you're doing. She'd sit with me and chat, have a cup of chai for an hour. And then she'd leave and I'd be like, yeah, great. And I'd tell, I'd give like my son a fist bump. I'd be like, we did it. One more week gone. So I had her, and I think she saw me through those 8 weeks. And I think somewhere maybe for her, and she must have seen so many women, that somewhere maybe she just saw the resilience or whatever she saw, and she was really keen on seeing my birth. So I already had my midwife.
To have a woman who is also so confident and not scared and is open and also doesn't put the responsibility then maybe on the gynec, because you want that home birth. You wanted to be there, and if she wants, she can also be there. That is a very different relationship than usually. Usually you put you're like, you know what, you're the doctor, you figure it out, and I trust. Like, that's a very different relationship that you seem to have with your gynec. So for her, it's also an opportunity.
No, that's so beautiful, because I don't think I ever thought of it like that till you said it. And what I realized is that I don't think I ever thought like that, because it's up to me, my body, and my baby. How can I say it's your responsibility?
But a lot of women do exactly that, right?
I suppose, and I guess that comes from a space of, helplessness and not knowing, and that's only natural. It's sad because we don't have experts empowering us today.
I think it's a very difficult space to be in as a woman, because you know more than your mother did, you know more than your grandmother did, but you don't know enough. You're not a medical person, or even if you're a medical person, you don't see your body from the outside. You are in it. So who gives you that empowerment to really absolve other people of the responsibility? You're looking for somebody you can lean on and be like, okay, you got this right, because I don't.
Yeah, I guess. But I think that's where the power comes from, when you realize that you got it. And that's it. You've got your own back. And the beauty is, when you stop actually depending on other people to have your back, there's no insecurity. You've got your back. So yeah, I think somewhere she saw, whatever she did, and she said, I'd be an honor for me to be part of your birthing. And I said, that's great. I don't want a crowd. So I said, I have my midwife and my doula. And I wanted my ex-husband to be with me. We wanted to do this together. So it was just going to be the three of us. And she said, I'm on call. Should something happen, if you need medical assistance, if you need an ambulance, if you need to run to the hospital, if your baby needs an NICU. And I was like, that's not happening. But yeah, since it's the first time, maybe I shouldn't risk it. And I should have it all on standby. So she was on standby, she was on call. She knew that if we called her, she'd have to have an ambulance ready. And I went into labor the night off, or the previous night at around 8 p.m. And this is actually something I want to share just as a piece of vital information to moms. I think people don't know this. So there is an enzyme called prostaglandin.
Okay.
Prostaglandin is present in semen.
Okay.
We have, I'm forgetting the name, there's an ointment that is a prostaglandin-based ointment that's often used to assist with birthing when the cervix isn't dilating. I was fed up. Like, sorry, I've been training you to stay inside. Now,
Training's over.
Out. Training's over. Hurry up. So I was given the option. I was told I could use this gel or something. And I realized in the moment, I said, if prostaglandins are freely available.
Yeah, you could just have sex.
Just have sex, right? So again, this was one of those experiments. I said, hey, we'll try it, right? Doesn't work, doesn't work. And my midwife gave me like the complete go ahead. She's like,
But that would have been
go
so
ahead.
weird for your husband because the baby's head is over there.
Yeah, well,
I mean, that's literally what you're
Not
always
my
afraid of
territory.
when you're pregnant, right? It's like, don't you like, are you going to poke the baby's head?
oh God, yeah. Didn't think of that. In the moment, I was like, knock, knock, get out. That's all I was thinking. So again, labor doesn't start the way we imagine it. You know, when we're like a first-time mom, we think, and I remember thinking this, that when labor starts, my baby's going to pop out, right? It's not like that. But so the moment we literally, sorry, again, TMI guys, there's a lot of sex on this podcast, just in case you thought there wasn't. So we had sex, and I went into labor in half an hour.
Wow. Great. That's a hack.
So that's a hack, right?
Hey, just need a man.
Don't let him go till you have the baby. So I was getting ready to take a shower because I think somewhere I knew that this baby is going to be here in the next whatever, so many hours. And I said, I'm not going to have time to shower. So my midwife also said, she said, let's get ready for the baby. So she said to me, I'm going to take a shower. I said, yeah, I'm going to take a shower as well. So as I was heading into the shower, I noticed, and again, busting another myth, when people talk about their water breaking, it doesn't have to be dramatic.
Oh, really?
So my mom had this very dramatic water breaking.
Me too.
You did too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of water.
Really?
Everywhere.
I mean, I think that's very fascinating in its own way, and I haven't experienced that. So I had a very anticlimactic water breaking.
And you were in the shower, so you couldn't...
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
I was just getting into the shower, so at least I experienced a little trickle because that's what it was. And I went into the next 18 hours of long labor. And because it was my first time, as the waves sort of started, and there was a build up, very sort of gradual. I think this was about 8 p.m. and I really started feeling the waves by about 11 o'clock or 11:30. And that's when my midwife said, she said, I mean, I give her complete credit for all of what I experienced the first time, because she was really the one who handheld me and trained me through so much of what I have to offer to other women today. She said, this is going to take a while, so you should rest. And that's when I thought, we'll be done. You know, it's been like 4 hours already. Baby's going to be here in the next few hours. And that's when I slept. I think I took like a good 4-hour nap. I was up early the next morning. And that is when I started going into closer to active labor. So she had me start moving then. So I started getting out of bed, walking around. I started my duck walks and my squats and all of that. And I remember a couple of hours before delivery, it took me about 40 minutes to walk from my bed to the living room. I don't know how to give people a sense of the space, but
no house is that big.
It wasn't that big.
You did not have a dolphin
Exactly.
birth. Your house is not that big.
So I was struggling to walk.
Wow.
And at one point then we came and we sat down in the living room on the sofa, and I think I started fading. So the reason I'm sharing all of this is that, you know, on the one hand, it's not that it was a cakewalk, and it's not that it was pain-free or there weren't any struggles or issues, like you said earlier, you know, speed bumps. There were, and I think it's really about how you deal with them. I got to the stage where I said I can't do it, and that's when she said to me, she said, this actually means that you can do it, you're ready, and you're going to have your baby. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, no, when you get to that point where you feel like you can't do it is when you're there. And you just need to get over that fear. And I think that was such a powerful moment for me. She looked me in the eye and she said, do you want to have this baby? Are you ready? And there was just something in that question. And I looked her in the eye and I said, yes. And so she said, okay, do you want to have this baby here? And I looked at myself, and I was sitting on the sofa in the living room, and I said, no, that room is ready for him just the way he wanted it. So she said, well, you're going to have to make that trek back, because I had to go all the way back to where I came from. And she said, you're going to have to hurry up. You don't have the next 45 minutes. So we started walking backwards. And that's when I started feeling the first urge to push. And I said to her, I stopped midway. I held her shoulders. We were both in like a squat down position. And I said, he's gonna come any minute, because I could feel it. Like you just feel this burning urge to push. And she said, nothing's gonna happen. And I said, my baby's gonna slide out and fall on the floor. And I think at one point I kind of was really firm with her and I said, he's gonna bang his head on the floor. And she looked at me and she said, that's not happening. And I realized in the moment that, maybe it's not that easy. You know, maybe he's not gonna just slide out. So I finally got to the room. We had a professional birthing pool. So they're about 4 feet tall. So irrespective of your height, they're not easy to get in. And with that massive belly and how you're feeling, it's like really hard anyway. So it was pretty comical. We had one of those tall ladders pulled out from the attic, and then I climbed up all awkwardly, the duck walk, and I got into the pool. Nice warm water. So the beauty of a water birth also is that the water just relaxes you. And if it's the right temperature, whatever your right temperature is for you, right? So I like it to be nice and warm. The lukewarm water just relaxes your muscles. So all the muscles kind of around, you know, your back, your buttocks, your thighs. And then I had my doula sitting behind me outside. I had my midwife sitting to my right, again outside. And then my ex-husband was in the pool with me, and I got inside. And that's when I started to push. And you realize as a first-time mother, and this was the difference between the first and the second, it really burns. So that is the oddest sensation. I mean, that is something I haven't forgotten. Like, it feels like it happened just yesterday. It burns like hell as the baby's crowning.
It's interesting that you describe this very specific, because people are always just talking about pain. Like, nobody ever goes into the specifics unless you're a mother and you're talking mom to mom, because then you have the feeling that you know what I'm talking about, right?
That's true.
You give it a specific name, and that also makes it less painful, because then you know what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what you were saying about burning your tongue. You burn your tongue, you know you burned your tongue, it doesn't hurt that much. But if you've never had that experience before, it's just what is happening to my tongue.
Absolutely.
Like, it's gonna fall off.
It's
not cool.
Yeah.
You just burned it. Same thing.
No, and it's very logical. Like, when I think about it, it's like, I mean, again, you know, when we talk about the miracle of pregnancy and birthing, can you imagine that tiny space that just expands to bring a damn baby out of there? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, 3.5 kg baby.
Yeah, I mean, who's this? They're at least this wide, right? What, 6 inches wide? 8 inches? I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, the size of a coffee cup. I remember that the baby's tummy is basically as wide as a big coffee cup.
Yeah, so it's going to burn when it expands, you know? So I could feel like my first sort of sensation at that time was, nobody told me it's going to burn. Like, they said pain and this and that, and right, all of that. And I was like, oh my God, this really burns. So at one point, I remember I was pushing and I could feel his head, and it's such a strange sensation because that's your cervix and that's the head. And when you push, it comes out, okay? But when you stop pushing, it goes back inside. and I was like, damn it, we were right there.
We missed it.
Yeah, and I'm like, shit, don't go back inside. And it burns, you know, again. When I have to push again, it's burning again. So I was like, you know, you could have just stayed there. So at one point, I think I kind of gave up and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And that's when they really encouraged me. They said, no, it's just another push or two. And I pushed and his head came out. And they said, you know, feel, put your hand there and feel. Oh my God, when I touched his head, and he had a hairy head. Again, it's like your heart just bursts open.
Yeah, that's the magic.
That's the magic. And I don't know. I mean, I have no idea after that what it felt like to push anymore or any of it, because all I wanted is for him to come out and for me to hold him. And that was it. And when I held him, I remember holding him and I just had this moment where my heart just burst and I was crying with joy holding him, that he was there. and he gave out like this loud wail, and I said, oh, my quiet home is going to be really noisy. That was like my first thought.
And then your midwife stayed on for a couple of more days.
Yes, so my midwife stayed on for, I want to say, another 2 weeks.
Wow, what a woman. Like coming to India, then staying for 2 weeks before the birth, 1 week before the birth?
I think she was there for 1 week before, maybe she stayed for about 2.5 weeks after. Yeah, and I mean, the first few nights, you know, you're struggling with sleeplessness and, you know, postpartum, whatever, fatigue and all of that. So it was really nice to have her because she helped. There were times when I'd just be like, can you just take him? Like, I really need to sleep. And then she'd take him and put him back to sleep, which was wonderful. But, you know, one of the most beautiful experiences of this entire, well, many beautiful experiences of this entire journey, but one of my favorite has been both times. I was moving around and sitting up within an hour or half an hour of delivery.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it took me to clean up, essentially. Yeah. I was showered, changed both times, and I was out with the baby, sitting, chatting with family, like nothing had happened. No postpartum pain. I think also it's like the endorphins, right? I mean, when you let the oxytocin and the endorphins flow, of course there's pain.
Yeah, you're
I'm not
super
saying
high.
there isn't.
Like in hindsight, you're thinking maybe I should have not been sitting there for like 5 hours chatting how wonderful it is to have the baby. You should probably have slept.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're so
You're
high.
so high. Absolutely. I mean, that high lasts for the next 3-4 days, as far as I remember. You're so high. Like, it's so hard for you to sleep when the baby sleeps. Like they say, you know, that wisdom kicks in later. I'm going to sleep when the baby's sleeping. But you're so high with all of it that you can't sleep. It was the same with my daughter in my next delivery, which was a breeze, by the way, compared to all of this. So I think it only gets easier and more beautiful, and you know what to expect, and your body knows. And
is there a website that you can access? So because we have a lot of international listeners. Since this midwife came from Austria, she would have probably also traveled to, I don't know, Poland or South Africa, wherever she would have had to travel. Is there a website that people can access if they're looking for a midwife and there is none available in their area who would assist home births?
I wish there was a directory like that.
Yeah.
I don't know of one, but I'm very happy to check and find out and come back to you if that's something maybe you can put in your comments later or something. Yes.
Because especially in places where healthcare is private, so in India healthcare is private, you're anyway paying for the hospital. True. You're anyway paying like thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars to make these things happen.
Yeah.
You might as well, I mean, it's really...
In India, though, you can't take your midwife to the hospital.
No, so then you can't go to the hospital. But if you're giving birth normally in a hospital, you're anyway paying the hospital, you're anyway paying the doctor. Yeah. If you have a C-section, you pay even more. Yeah. But if you're in America, where everything is also private, it might make sense to fly somebody in and it comes to the same cost.
Yes, and also I'm sure the US and Europe have midwives.
Yeah, Europe
I know
has
the UK
midwives,
does,
yes,
and
yes.
So I know they're far more easily accessible there.
But home birth is still something that I feel you have to advocate for, like if you want a home birth.
Yeah. I think the fear has to go out of birthing for women to also opt for home births. I think it's going to need a revolution, honestly. And I'm really hoping women are ready for the revolution, because all of what doctors and medicine does, you know, is amazing. And, you know, there's no taking away from it. We have that if we need it. But I feel like we need to start giving ourselves a chance to just bring the sacred back into birthing. The sacredness is lost. And it's getting lost by us. It's nobody else that's causing it to be lost. So it's really our prerogative as one woman at a time, one mom at a time, to bring that sacred back. First, by experiencing it yourself.
It's like a wall between you and your body. Or there's a lot of women who just don't experience it ever, and for no fault of theirs.
Yeah, of course.
So you're open and receptive to acknowledge it also as magical.
Oh, yes. No, I think you've made a really valid point. I think from the time that we're born, it's like we've been made to identify with the limitedness of who we are. You're a girl, you're so-and-so's daughter, you're so-and-so's brother, sister, whatever, right? That you begin to identify more and more with your external form. And as we grow up and the world that we live in, it's almost like it doesn't have room for us to connect deeper with ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, when we began the podcast, that you don't record on your terrace because there's so many birds chirping. Now, it's a beautiful sound. You'd love to sit and listen, but it doesn't allow you to hear yourself. And so similarly, it's like your own inner voice gets drowned in the noise of the world so much that you can't hear it anymore. So the more we are able to sort of come back into that space of being able to listen. And I don't mean listen like hearing, like hearing an actual tangible sound, but it's just that sense of knowing that it's so subtle, you can miss it, and to be able to know that something is different. It's not even wrong or right, it's something is different. It takes a deep level of inner connectedness. And I'm not saying you have to be, away from the hustle bustle of life in this world. I mean, I am entrenched and how into this world.
You live in Bombay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm 100% right here. The idea is not to go sit on Mount Kailas and meditate and experience God or divinity. It is to sit right here. And that's the challenge, that, you're right here and you're able to experience. So the challenge is, and I think also the purpose is, to be able to achieve that state of such inner silence and quietude that you can tell when there's a little bit of something that's different. Again, like I said, it's not off or right or wrong. So you're like, there's a presence inside me, and it. I've conceived. And similarly, then what that baby wants, what that baby is asking for, what that baby is saying. And that just leads to, I don't know, an inner conviction that knows how powerful this being is who chose to come when they chose to come. It's not even just the power of the woman, I realize. It's the power of, I'm having this realization in the moment, it's the power of the baby. What we don't realize is that that is the power of the, unincarnate. They haven't fully manifested in the body yet, right? We talk about consciousness, and we talk about the self, and we talk about, all of that. And what is that? That is the unincarnate. And when we talk about, the philosophy that I've grown up with is God dwells within you as you. And so if God dwells within me as me, there's a flame, and then there's tinier flames that come from that one bonfire. And when that flame has been lit, or that flame has been ignited, but it hasn't taken on its own shape and form yet, it's still a part of the bonfire. That's the power of the baby. My baby did all of that. He found himself his midwife.
Probably the baby is more powerful because it's not limited by the body.
Oh, absolutely. So, this morning I woke up and I was telling my partner, I said, that I had this realization, and I said, it's the power of the mother being able to really dissolve, just go into a state of not being herself. And I think the biggest fear maybe, it's like moms say, oh my God, I'm going to lose my identity. And there's so much of that we hold on to then. We're like, oh my God, no, this is what I like doing and I'm going to do this. What if for a moment you could just say, I am the vessel for this baby right now. There's this beautiful Kabir's Doha, where he basically says that the mother, the baby's desires are reflected within the mother, and then they become her cravings. It's like how we have food cravings in our pregnancy, and sometimes we crave the craziest of things, right? And you might say, I craved something that I never even liked. So where's that coming from? So if we allowed ourselves to just be that subtle, translucent vessel for the baby, to really let them take over, I think they're the ones who are powerful. I think it's actually it's the falsehood of the ego to say the woman is powerful. The baby does everything. Labor is nothing else but a fusion of the wisdom of the body and the baby. When I'm training my moms to prepare for delivery, we take a good 6 to 8 weeks to prepare for delivery. And one of my mantras is just let go of being you and come into the wisdom of your body and come into the wisdom of the baby, because it's the baby and the body together that are going to bring this baby into the world, not you, not me. The
I think
body
it's very
knows
tough
what to
for
do.
women who live in this world, though, right? To tap into, like, I mean, for one, to just do basic yoga asanas every day is already a challenge. Now you're talking like 10 levels more, right? Like you're really going into meditation, you're going in yourself. I think it takes a lot of work to accept that possibility. Maybe after the first child it's easier, because once you've experienced the spirituality of giving birth, the second one you really know that it's a spiritual experience. But I think for many women to just reach the point where you actually even start working is tremendous.
When I'm training my moms, I'm not training you at a conscious level. So I'm not telling you to do certain things or think a certain way. Because again, that's addressing the conscious mind. So the training is really very experiential, where you will experience it and it becomes your truth. When it's your truth, then nobody can change that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think that coffee without sugar is sweet enough for you, that's your truth. But for me, I need 2 sachets of sugar to call it sweet or to make it palatable, right? So your truth is your truth, and that can't change. And the idea is for you to find your truth. Now, the beauty is that truth is actually one and the same. Okay, I mean, birthing is natural, it is beautiful. Every mammal on earth has unassisted birth, except for human beings. So why are we so special, right? So it's like tapping into that wisdom inside, where like we call them contractions in medical terms. I don't use that term. We call them waves. And they're so beautiful. And part of my training is to make the waves desirable. You want them. And I make you want them. And when you want them, you will welcome them in. Your body will expand instead of contract. And when that happens, the baby is going to gently get pushed further and further and further and further down. And that's your body doing it. What you are actually doing is resisting it, which is making it even harder. That's what's causing your pain, because you're resisting it. And then, you're depending on external forces to tell you when to push. I'm sorry for the TMI that I'm just going to get into right now, guys.
No,
sorry.
TMI is great.
When you need to go poop, do you need someone to tell you when to push?
Yeah.
Do you know when to push? It's just a sensation, right? Everyone knows how to do it from a newborn. It's the same way. It's the same wisdom inside the body that just knows when you need to push. You don't need anyone to tell you when to push. I delivered 2 babies, 3.5 kilos each. No tears, no stitches, nothing. You don't need it. It's the body's natural function. Now, on the other hand, where medical science has gone today is fantastic, because there are times when you just need that assistance and you need that intervention. And it's amazing that medicine is able to do that and bring so many mothers closer to their babies, because there are challenges that otherwise they can't.
And also save lives.
Save lives, yeah. They can't do it otherwise. But when everything is going as per sort of
when
the
there's
book,
no medical problem.
when there's no, medical problem, yes, that intervention becomes invasive. So when you induce labor, for example, there's so many cases where the baby passes meconium or, poops themselves in the womb. And why is that? That's a stress response. The baby hasn't experienced these contractions before that begin suddenly out of the blue. But when you look at a healthy, normal, natural labor, the body starts preparing weeks in advance, like a good 12 weeks in advance. You have Braxton Hicks contractions, where your belly starts getting really hard. That's the first of it, because your baby needs to feel what it's going to feel like. It's like you can't go onto a Ferris wheel in high. You can't jump on at high speed, can you? You sit down when it's still.
Yeah.
And then it starts moving gradually, and that's how you prepare the body as well. So the body has so much wisdom, it knows how to start preparing. The uterus starts preparing, the baby starts getting prepared, you begin to get prepared as well. You're like, oh, there's a new sensation, you know, I feel these funny things. And then as the contractions or the waves start, you know, begin, it's a build up. There's a build up to it. It's not immediate. So it's like you don't go into active labor immediately.
Yeah.
You go through it over a period of time. So the body really knows what it's doing. And when you mess with that is when you can't feel anyway, right? Because when you take the epidural, you're
then
numb.
you need somebody to tell you. when
Of
you have
course you need
contractions
someone to
because
tell you.
You won't have any feeling.
Yeah.
If a woman now listening to this episode maybe feels like she wants to turn around her pregnancy journey, when do you think is the cutoff time? Like, when do you think is like, when you're 38 weeks, it's probably too late to start that journey?
The straightforward answer is it's never too late. At the same time, when I offer my moms the womb to world training, I tell them that they should come in anywhere between 15 to 18 weeks so that we can really do the whole program, where we can really work on all the stuff that you need to sort of let go of so that we can have you be reprogrammed and be in a really receptive, healthy inner state. And then we go on to the other modules where we're working on the baby, we're working on, you know, helping you get prepared for delivery and all of that. And I'd say, you know, I mean, if you're still far along, you can come anywhere till up to even 30 weeks if you want to just prepare for labor and birthing.
Wow.
It's about how open you are and how ready you are.
If you need an opportunity in your mundane life to find spirituality, grab it by the shoulders, because being pregnant is that one opportunity where you can also, I almost want to say it's like an excuse. It's a good excuse to find yourself on that path, because being that connected to source will also probably not happen. Like, it's so easy. It's so easy to tap into it while you're pregnant, because you have that strong physical connection to something else. Otherwise, it's very difficult to find. It's a privilege as a woman, actually, because we have this choice whenever we have a baby, that we get to connect.
Absolutely. I think you said something so important. It's like a portal that opens up, that allows us to be able to get in touch with whatever almighty, divine, you know, the source of all power that is. You know, we all have the crown chakra, right? And we all have a vagina, and we know the vagina is open. So you know of that opening. What we don't always remember is that when a baby is born, right, the walls of the crown begin to close only when the baby's head is actually compressed during crowning, as the baby is born, as the baby is delivered through the vaginal canal. This closure, you know, the two, what are they called? I'm forgetting. They overlap on the crown. It's the softest part of the body of the baby, and this is why they're told, you know, always make sure to protect the crown of the head. It's very soft. When you look at a newborn baby, you can not only feel, you can see the pulse.
Yeah.
You can see it pulsing up and down, right? So the crown was open all throughout when the baby was inside the mother's womb. The crown is the gateway, the opening to source. When you're pregnant, you have the opportunity to connect through your crown with source. When you connect with source and you literally intend to download the power of source through the crown chakra all the way into your womb, and finally use that force and that power to deliver your baby, when your vagina opens, you're nothing but
a channel.
You're like a flute, open from both ends. And you know, one may look at a flute and say, what is this, you know, empty tube? That's what makes the most beautiful music, if you know how to play it right. That's all that we are in the moment. So again, it's like being able to give up or surrender your identity as who I am, to really be that empty vessel. There is no other way but for that baby to come out naturally.
Yeah.
But you have to give up that fear, that contriteness, that all of what you're stuck with, the I am, the ego, I am going to do this, how can I go through this? You're not going through anything.
Yeah, you're just the vehicle.
It's one of the things my midwife said to me. She said, don't think of it as how much you're going to go through delivering your baby. Have you thought of how much your baby is going to have to go through? And I just looked at her in complete shock. I was like, what do you mean? She said, do you have any idea how much your baby has to go through to push themselves down through your birth canal? So do you realize why the baby sleeps so much right after delivery? Because the baby has been through a marathon journey. And in that moment, I had tears in my eyes and I said, and here I am thinking about how much I am going to go through. And you feel so small. So think about it. When you think about what your baby is going to go through and your body is assisting the baby, and all you're doing is you're just there to support. That's all. It's also just about learning to just be a passive support.
Yeah.
You're just there to have their back. I have my body's back, I have my baby's back, and that's it. I'm here. There's nothing I'm going to go through because I, as an individual, is not even here. I'm just here to support this process. That's it. And it's natural. It has to happen.
Wow. Beautiful words. No, I'm really glad that we had you on this podcast.
Thank you.
Also give the spiritual angle to it. We hardly ever talk about it. I think there's also some fear of, this is not like, it's not properly documented in the books. It's not medically researched. It's not legit to feel these things, to say these things. But first of all, your midwife, who's been doing this for 50 years, I guess if she was 72, she said it's a sacred process. And I'm sure she's medically trained, otherwise she wouldn't be a midwife. So there is a lot of, just nobody's written it down or care to write it down. Maybe also we shouldn't, because it has to be experiential, but that doesn't make it less legitimate. And it's important to see the miracle of medicine, of course, who can warn us in case there is anything like diabetes or preeclampsia or all these things. Yeah. But also to just validate the fact that it is a spiritual experience, and it is, from nothing comes a person who has a life and a career and a family and friends and is impacting this world in some way or the other. And you came from nothing.
Yes.
And your parents just made you.
Yeah.
Out of thin air, it feels like.
Yeah, when you go and see that first sonography where you actually see the baby go from like a tadpole looking being to, or not even then, when you go from, just looking at it as a cell, to when it's looking like a tadpole, it's got the entire spine. Yeah. And you look at that and you're like, I made that. Yeah, you made that. Right? The 10 toes and the 10 fingers and the 20 perfect nails. How does that happen? So how is it not a miracle? Yeah. How is it not a miracle? So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
That's beautiful. This is, I think, one of our longest episodes, but I will probably also not edit this because I feel we've covered both angles, like, how your birth actually happened very practically. Yeah. What helped, the process, and then also the spiritual angle of it. I think it's a good mix. It's a long episode. Thank you so much for listening to 9+9, the very honest today, pregnancy and birthing podcast. And if you have any feedback or a story that you'd like to share, you can email us to 9+9, that is 9 as a number, plus9 @harkat.in. And please subscribe, share, tell your friends about this, and maybe also friends who are expecting, or friends of friends who are expecting, so that they know what the heck is going on with those mothers to be. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for having me.